Hey subscribers, and if you are new here, welcome. This is lesson 3 of Gentling this Devil's Garden Wild Horse number 6004. We previously worked on teaching him to face up and accept touch, and I feel he's coming along quite nicely for a horse that was wild for 14 years. Today he will be learning something symbolic of domestic life, wearing a halter. If he's cooperative, my goal is to have him comfortable enough with the halter that he will actually help me put it on him and accept it willingly. I start by showing him a soft rope I have looped to create a slip lead. I'm going to encourage him to be curious and touch the rope by releasing pressure anytime he motions towards it. This can take lots of time, but the goal is to get him comfortable with the rope around his face. He is understandably confused about this process, but the work we did in the last lesson to get him comfortable with touch will help him get through this much easier, as he's already used to my hand going past his eyes and touching every part of his face. I'm just going to keep sliding it on and off, gradually working farther and farther up his face until he is okay with me placing it on his pole. I try to remove it before he becomes too stressed that he feels he needs to leave, and make sure to remove it when he's standing still and trying to understand what he needs to do. Once I finally have it around his neck, the last thing I want to do is pull and have him panic, so I will walk away while keeping slack in the rope. He's not ready to give to pull pressure yet. We are just getting him used to the feeling of something touching behind his ears and around his throat. Our previous work teaching him to face up is helping tremendously here. He is unsure what to do with the rope, so he faces me to ask for guidance. Now that he is starting to relax with the rope around his throat, we are going to loosen it and work through any problems he may have with the rope touching his ears. I will slowly rub back and forth across his ears and make sure he isn't too scared. His lips are pressed pretty tight, so I'm not going to make a huge deal over this, just letting him feel the rope all over his ears and removing it when he stands calmly so he doesn't feel he needs to do anything else to get the rope off. I want to briefly introduce the halter now. He is curious and comes over to investigate what I have in my hands, so as soon as he touches or sniffs it, I'm going to take it away and encourage more of that curiosity. I want him to wonder what I have and be drawn to it, not immediately chase him around with it and scare him. Once he checks it out and feels it touching his face, we end the session without trying to put it on. Day 9, he gets very excited because he sees I have hay with me. This guy is so food motivated that he will be able to easily learn to put his nose in the halter for me. I started out just having him target the halter for a bite of hay, but he had no problem whatsoever understanding that I want him to put his muzzle in the halter, so we skipped ahead. Not every horse will catch on this quickly, and I'm crediting it to his mature mind and easygoing nature. To teach this, I use a fully adjustable nylon halter with a throat snap. We will be pushing the halter up and over his ears, as this is how we will also put a bridle on. I want to use a nylon instead of a rope halter because the pressure he feels will be spread out over a larger space. To have him push his nose through the halter, I hold it up to his face and use my free hand to place hay just inside the hole for his nose. He easily learns that the halter is a hay dispenser and willingly pushes his nose in to get the treat. Some horses may need to start with the noseband adjusted larger, or if they're very sensitive, unbuckled completely. The cool thing about this is that he eventually starts putting his nose in before I even have the hay ready, so I know he will eventually do this on his own without hay in the near future and be very easy to halter. I'm going to slowly start working the halter farther up his face and eventually cross his eyes and push over his ears. I make sure to remove the halter when he's keeping his head low, which will help us more easily halter him if he knows the halter comes off when his head is dropped. Repetitively putting the halter on and off is key. I don't want to get too excited that the halter is on and leave it there, or he may not trust it any longer. A disproportionately high number of times the halter is on, it comes right back off, so he has no reason to fear or fight the process. We're also going to resist the urge to clip a lead on and get him started leading so that he does not associate the halter with anything new or difficult to do. When he throws his head and steps back, I'm sure to drop the halter and leave it on him so that he doesn't learn that jerking away is how you get a halter off. I try again and ask him to drop his head before taking the halter off one ear at a time. Since he needs more practice with this ear, we will repeat the process of putting it on and taking it off many times until he can stand calmly and drop his head while I do this. Having him drop his head to get food is the easiest way for him to understand where I want him, and will train his muscles to automatically do this when I touch around his ears. Now he is doing so much better with his ears, we can move on to the throat latch. This is a fairly complex thing to teach as multiple things are going on. He needs to be okay with me reaching around the side of his face and under his head, the halter touching his cheeks and throat, and the metal snap making noise as I latch it. We are going to break it down into steps and reward when he stands calmly. One big thing to remember is that I'm not rewarding the halter for being on his face. I'm rewarding him for standing quietly while I fuss with the halter. It is okay to reward well before the halter is snapped on. The reward comes when he decides to drop his head despite me doing strange things to his face. I will not hold out on the reward until my task is complete, but rather reward his behavior. It seems like a silly distinction to make, but trust me, this is a very common mistake and a source of frustration for the horse and human that is easily avoided when you reward the behavior, not the task. If you are impressed with this brave little Mustang and how quickly he's coming along, don't forget to leave him a like or a comment. He has done so well that I will leave him alone and give him his well-earned end-of-session snack. And I will see you guys in the next video where we teach him to lead and give to halter pressure.